Hope is exactly what is destroying your sanity. Expecting tomorrow to be easier only makes the weight of today unbearable. Embrace the void, accept the eternal punishment, and discover exactly how to turn your absolute worst curse into power. So yeah, that was the third time this week I caught myself saying that exact sentence out loud, alone, in my car. What is even the point? Look, I'm not going to pretend I've got it all figured out. Nobody does. But a few months back, I went and reread this old philosophy thing. The myth of a guy named Sisyphus, cursed to push a rock up a hill for eternity, watch it roll back down, and do it again. Forever. No finish line, no reward. And I realized that story isn't a tragedy, it's basically a how-to guide for not losing your mind. There's an actual structure behind why that myth still works on people 2,000 years later. 7 pieces, really, that fit together. And once you see them, you can't unsee them in your own life. The rock, the hill, all of it. Okay, let's break the rock open. The first move isn't something Camus tells you to add to your life. It's something he tells you to cut. Most of us walk around stacking goals on top of goals, hoping enough weight on one side of the scale will finally balance out the chaos on the other. He does the opposite. He strips the question down to one line. Does life have a built-in point, yes or no? And once you stop dodging that, the noise drops out almost completely. Turns out silence does more work than another goal ever could. The absence of the question ends up louder than any answer you could have bolted on top of it. Think about how loud your own head gets when 17 notifications hit before breakfast, each one promising a sliver of meaning if you just click. Camus skips the clicking. He asks the one question that matters, gets his answer, no, and walks forward without the extra cargo. Now here's a belief that wrecks people before they even start. The idea that your life needs one giant, sweeping purpose to count for anything. A mission statement carved in stone somewhere. Screw that. The man pushing the rock doesn't get a 5-year plan. He gets a hill, today, right now. And that's the whole trick. Purpose doesn't need to be huge to be real. It needs to be specific and close enough to touch. Smaller scope means less rope to hang yourself with, and, funny enough, a lot less effort wasted chasing a horizon that keeps moving every time you get near it. Picture an apprentice mechanic handed an entire engine and a manual the size of a phone book before he's allowed near a wrench. He'd quit by page 10. Camus hands you one bolt at a time instead. Turn this one today. That's the job. Here's where it gets almost mechanical. Camus doesn't soften the gap between what we want, order, fairness, a reason, and what we actually get, which is none of that, guaranteed. He widens it, on purpose. Because the friction itself, the grinding of want against reality, is the exact spot where your focus is supposed to land. Not the top of the hill, not the bottom, the climb, the part that burns. He's pointing your eyes at the one place most people flinch away from. And once you're looking straight at it, it stops running the show from the shadows. It's the same reason a sound you can name stops scaring you in the dark. Once friction has a location, a shape, something you can actually point at, it loses the grip it had when it was just background noise wearing you down. Here's the part that messes with your head a little. Same rock, same hill, same eternity. But the second you stop calling it a punishment and start calling it your work, something in your chest shifts, not the task itself. The label sitting on top of it. Call the new label what it actually is, a rewrite, not a denial. And once you've rewired it one time, you've built an edge most people never bother with because they're too busy waiting for circumstances to change instead of changing the lens they're dragging those circumstances through. This next one's a tool, not a feeling. Camus says, strip away whatever distracts you from the absurd, the busy work, the noise, the doom scrolling. And watch what's left standing. If your sense of worth collapses the second the applause stops, the second the promotion doesn't come, you've found a fake foundation. The gap, the silence after the distraction's gone, that's your diagnostic. It shows you exactly where you built your house on sand instead of rock. And now you're the one who gets to fix it. Nobody else required. It's an uncomfortable kind of honesty, like checking your bank balance after a bad month instead of just avoiding the app. Nobody enjoys it. But it's the only way you actually find out what you're standing on. And look, you're not going to memorize a script for every disaster life throws at you. Your job vanishing, a relationship ending, your body breaking down a decade early. Nobody can prep for all of it, but you don't need to. You need maybe half a dozen base moves. Own it, don't outsource the blame, don't wait around for rescue, find the next small task, repeat. And that short list covers basically any version of the rock you'll ever get handed. Less to remember, less dread sitting in your stomach before the thing even happens. Trying to script out every possible disaster in advance is like sharpening a knife for a fight that hasn't shown up yet. You wear yourself out before the moment even arrives. 6 dull, reliable moves beat 1,000 sharp, untested ones. Last piece, and people skip it because it looks like decoration. But here's what it actually does. It decides how the task feels in your head before you've even picked it up. Call it a grind, and your shoulders drop before the work even starts. Call it a ritual, 10 seconds of framing, and that exact same hour of pushing sits differently in your body. The work hasn't changed one bit. The wrapper around it has, and the wrapper's the one part of this whole thing you fully control. So here's all 7, running at once, on a guy who actually lived this. Camus wrote that essay in 1942, in a country under occupation with the world tearing itself apart around him. He didn't pretend the rock was light, he didn't pretend the hill had a summit that mattered. He cut the noise, shrank the goal down to today, stared straight at the friction, relabeled the punishment as the work, caught himself the moment his worth leaned on the wrong thing, ran his 6 base moves, and wrapped the whole mess in language that let him survive it. And I'll be honest, even knowing all 7, I still catch myself failing at 3 of them most weeks. Take last Tuesday, a deadline missed, an email I should have sent and didn't, dishes piling up in a sink I was too tired to even look at. None of the 7 pillars showed up on their own. I had to drag each one out by hand, one at a time, like pulling a stuck drawer. The frame slips. I call it a grind more than I'd like to admit. This isn't a finished state you arrive at once. It's a rock you keep showing up for. And that's exactly why the essay doesn't end in despair. It ends on a line that's outlived its author by more than 80 years now. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Not because the rock gets lighter, because somewhere on that climb, he stopped waiting for the universe to hand him a reason and started building one with his own hands. That's the whole structure. Not magic, not luck. 7 moves, repeatable, sitting inside a story older than most religions, still standing today. Your rock looks different than his, but it's still just a rock and you already know how to climb. So go pick the damn thing up. And if any of this actually landed for you, stick around because there's more of this kind of breakdown waiting for you right here.